Today on Cooking with Naswalt, we are going to run over rock and roll and how you can make it, even as a solo act or someone that's getting collaboration strictly through Audiotool. Because of modern technology and just some smart decision making, you can complete an entire rock track and fulfill what a drummer, a bass player, two guitarists, a vocalist would normally take to achieve within a full studio session. So we're going to break this down into 4 sections: drums, bass, guitar, and vocals. I want to give some real quick pointers on how we can make a rock band as one producer. With your drums, the easiest rule is 2 things at a time, because there's only so much that a drummer can do with his 4 limbs. That means max 4 things at a time, but for the majority of your song, 2 things are going to be happening at once. Even for really intense metal style drumming, it's mainly only 2 things happening within a singular moment. The next is going to be for your guitars, your rhythm section. Your drums, your guitar, your bass guitar all work together to make a wall of sound that is proven effective and ginormous for like 50 plus years in American pop music. Whether that's going to be some of the same notes, whether that's going to be them happening at the same time. The next and final thing is for your lead guitar. If you have an instrumental, a lead melody is going to do a lot in making sure that people are paying attention and aren't bored to tears. So make sure that a lot's happening with it. Give yourself some harmonization. Copy and paste your notes above or below, see what sounds good, and then take the notes and the accidentals and move them back into the same key. And then finally, for your voice, it's rock, project. That's it. It's the best advice I can give you. Let's consider a drum set. So this absolute fool right here spent about 30 minutes just talking about drums, trying to explain them with words, when the reality is you need to get your hands on a drum set to really understand them. We're going to emulate it with just 2 pins, just by air drumming. It's embarrassing. It can be a little, self-conscious over me trying to do the Neil Peart. We can really understand what we're writing a whole lot better. So right here, I have a very simple drum groove, and we're going to focus in on our hi-hat, which is going to be over to our left, our snare, which is basically between your legs, our crash, that is right above the hi-hat. This is going to be a very simple beat. We're going to start off with the crash, and then it's just kick, snare, kick, snare. 1 E and 2 E and constant on the hi-hat. We're going to put all those parts together. Doom, ba. All right, hit the crash again. Your right leg is going to be your kick. So just stomp your foot against the floor. The hi-hat wasn't being hit at the same time the crash was. That would feel cumbersome to have both your hands over to the left end of your body and then to more than likely trade off with your dominant hand, which is more than likely your right hand, for the hi-hat, because you kind of want to hit that with the crash. So the hi-hat stops being played for a second, and then we come back over to giving it until we hit that crash again. And the same thing's going to happen with fills. If we wanted to use the rest of this big old drum set right here, a lot of these other moments would drop out. We would be focused in on the toms. Same thing with the amount of pressure that we're putting on our hi-hat. Your hi-hat got hit a little harder when you had other stuff going on. You're following the momentum of your body, and this is something that happens naturally whenever you go for your kick and when you go for your snare. Those stressed moments, you kind of naturally intuit to stress with the hi-hat. And the good thing is this sounds amazing, and it's something you kind of want to fall into. You want to let your body really work with the groove that you're doing on drums. But when you program your drums, this is important to remember. See, we have a little bit of a curve going up and down, and it comes down right after big moments and kind of gets bigger, approaching those big moments. And it's good because it sounds lively. Next thing that we want to notice is that our hi-hat this entire time has been closed. This is a good thing to consider with this instrument. It can do a multitude of different sounds, but it can only do one at a time. Right now, our hi-hat's been closed the whole time, and how hard we hit it kind of determines how bright, how much decay is in there. But if we play it opened, we get a completely different sound. So you notice we have moments where the hi-hat is tss, tss, and we have a short. That is the hi-hat being closed. That is literally me with my left foot lowering the pedal. So the same way that I have my right foot dedicated to my kick, my left is dedicated to my hi-hat. If you're like me and you're more intermediate with it and it's just an understanding, it might be better to stick to the hi-hat kind of just being opened or closed for different segments. But remember that you don't have multiple hi-hats running at the same time. Don't forget, there is a free drum resource by yours truly, the drum template, that you can load up and use in Audiotool to get a live drum sound with all sorts of different kick, snare articulations, hi-hat articulations, cymbals, toms, everything that you need right here. We have our drums finished and our MIDI. There's a lot of different velocity values that have been thrown in. So I think that sounds pretty good, and the chord progression I want to play on guitar is fairly simple. Before we get into that, let's dispel a myth about guitar and an issue a lot of guitarists fall into. See, this guitar right here was $150. It had a slight blemish on it. I don't know where. It's the greatest guitar I've ever owned. And let's take a look at some of the other gear you'll need to record guitar. So on the second cam here, we have some guitar pedals. The good news about every single one of these is they're all available for free on Audiotool. Not the exact make and model, but you can get away with emulating all of these sounds off Audiotool. Guitar amp is going to do most of your work because it's kind of hard to come across a guitar amp that doesn't have built-in effects. And honestly, the majority of the time, I'm not using any of these sounds. I'm using these. This guitar amp was purchased for $50, used, but in phenomenal quality. And then lastly, a way to get our sound into our computer. This is the audio interface. You can even get $50 audio interfaces that sound just as good. Thing is that price does not equate quality. What does equate quality is the quality of your ideas. Got a chord progression here laid out for this. I like it a lot. And then we're going to have a higher part. And with those two together, we're going to play that over these drums and record them in either Audiotool, because we can actually go in here and record a sample, or we can use a second free DAW. You don't need something like Pro Tools to accomplish rock music. What we're going to use is Audacity, just because it's a good example, I think, for this. So you see we're recording, and now I'm going to play Audiotool in the background, and we'll get something good rolling. I got to level with y'all, that was torture. I'm not sure why, but when you record, you forget everything. And we're just going to edit these guitars now, just making sure that we have everything in stereo. So we're going to take these. We should have two decent cuts floating somewhere in 7 minutes worth of recording. One side completely left, one side completely right. We're going to get these pretty darn close, and we can always really edit them in Audiotool after the fact. This is just saving us from having to upload like 7 minutes worth of audio to Audiotool. I mean, it's okay. Like I said, we will go in, edit this a little bit more, just to be little perfectionists. So we have an idea of where our song's going to go, have a nice groove, get some bass guitar in there, and with our bass, we can change the monotony of a chord progression and give it some variation with very little work. So what we have is a little... But on the second go around, instead of it just being a loop, we're going to switch it up. And instead of, we're going to go down to. We're going to record what we're playing along to our drums here in Audiotool. Editor naswalt here. My rhythm is not that bad. I don't know any human being that is consistently 350 milliseconds late on every single note. Something wasn't set up proper in OBS. This is going to be a team effort. Me and you both just have to try and look past this.
In the business, we call that good enough.
So now let's get our bass in Audiotool and make it play nice with the drums. First things first is just out of instinct. I know I'm going to want my sub frequencies out of my bass guitar to get out of the way with the kick drum coming in. So we're going to carve out some space for that in the moments when the kick drum activates, and that's through a side chain. So this splitter is sending our lows into this side chain. Our mids, I'm going to add a little bit of bite to them. Take a listen to what that does. So without our little bit of a tube boost, let's turn it on. Very subtle, but it's helping it work with the mix a lot more. And we'll get into some of the reinforcement we'll do at the bass later. And now for lead guitar. I'm not a phenomenal guitarist, so I'll be brushing over the subject with brevity and simplicity. We have a pretty good track rolling here. Drums, bass, guitar. Truthfully, at this point, a lot of people could say it's all said and done. I really like the option for a lead guitar. If what we write doesn't end up being quite up to snuff, we can always flood it in effects and see if it makes a nice texture in the back, or just not use it. Here's the part that I am considering, or something along the lines of. We're going to take this and we're going to add some delay and some reverb and probably some chorus, double track it, see where that ends up taking us, and play it along to the song and just get everything recorded. We have all of our guitars now in Audiotool. So with that, we can get to work with the funnest part, which is really crafting our sound out of it. So that's 4 different guitar layers playing all at once, and it certainly sounds like it. It's way too busy, but our rhythm guitar is another one that's fairly simple, straightforward. I want those chords to be clear, so I'm not going to do a whole lot to it. Got to add in some reverb, so we put it in a room. Feels like it's being performed in the same place the drums are now. Our lead guitar, way more involved. So with our lead guitar, this feels flat. Give it some life with some chorus. And then let's make sure it's playing nice with our rhythm guitar. So it's a little bit more on top than I'd like it to be, so we're going to continue to smear it in a little bit more reverb and delay, and essentially we're going to trick people into feeling like it's further back in the room. So let's take a listen to it now with the delay enabled. That feels a lot more even. We also have some left-right panning going on that's helping carve out some space in the stereo field. And finally, our effects guitar. Without any of these effects present on it, it's starting to get on top of everybody else. So same deal, through our aux synths, the same way we've done this for some of our other effects, for our rhythm and our lead, and now our effects guitar. We're going to smear it in an unbelievable amount of reverb and delay, as a matter of fact, and tuck it more in the background. So with the effects, and without the effects. It feels a little bit more quiet. There is some volume reduction because of the amount that we're putting onto it through this aux end, but it also has the spatial feeling of being more in the background. Now, we have all of that put together, and our guitars sound a lot more even. Still extremely busy. That's just a matter of me tucking in too many notes all at once. So how can we reinforce it and try and bring some more clarity in? First thing I'd recommend is to start cutting stuff out of your mix when you've ran into that. But I'm feeling a little stubborn today, and I'm going to reinforce it with some synthesizers. So we have a sub bass that is going to come in with our kick. This is a production technique that Bill Murray inspired me to try out. I feel like it sounds pretty good, so we're not losing those sub notes, but we are getting some of the muddiness of the bass guitar out of the way. So the kick comes in nice and clear and thumpy with this. It almost has an 808 effect whenever we put it on our kick. The next thing is this fuzz bass, which I think helps us bridge the gap between our bass guitar and our regular guitar. So it's playing a monophonic bass line over here. We gotta take a listen to that. And it plays the exact same thing our bass guitar is playing. And the final note we have here is going to be our chords, which are coming in and getting out of the way fairly quick. Very organ, kind of choir sound to that, which is very traditional for rock music to have those kinds of sounds behind you, or, string pad or something like that to help back up the guitar harmonically. This serves an important role in the sense of building atmosphere for our song. It's an element that we can use in other parts of it later on when we want something a little bit more mid-tempo, lower energy. But in the Deftones White Pony album, there were interviews during the recording process where former DJ Frank Delgado was adding in a lot of synth work that was described as imperceptible. But the band was dead set on putting it in because it added something that the songs just didn't have otherwise. Very obvious in the popular track change in The House of Flies. Also another technique that Bill Murray does quite a bit with splice samples. Everything all together, I think, sounds a little more cohesive. And finally, vocals, the thing that a lot of people have come to know me for on Audiotool that, frankly, I'm the worst at. The good news is for rock, you don't have to be a phenomenal vocalist, you just have to be willing to go for it. A good frontman can carry a poor band. Vocals are the part that most audiences focus in on and that most artists beat themselves up on the most. The reality is that you will get better at vocals over time. But more important than your performance is your confidence. The character and performance that you bring far outweigh your technique and ability to hit that note. So let's endeavor to have some vulnerability, to go for it. And over time, you'll understand your voice and your ability and be able to use it to elevate a track. As far as it goes for raw technique, how to use your voice, I'm truly going to recommend you check out Chris Lipe's YouTube channel, with so many wonderful free lessons that have benefited me greatly in my journey of discovering my voice, as well as the raw joy of getting in your car, blaring some music and singing along to it. See if you can emulate what your favorite artists are doing. The ones that constantly inspire me for vocals are Kellen Quinn, John Mess, Tillian, and many other bands with phenomenal vocalists whose range are far above my own. It doesn't stop me from trying, and my range has expanded greatly from yelling and realizing I can hit that note. I just can't hold it. So first things first, let's just get familiar with the key. This song is in D major. So let's just sing it and get our voice familiar with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And then let's sing it back down. 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 feels a little low for my voice. 1 feels pretty comfortable. Honest to goodness, 5 is about where I'm comfortable. And just like our previous lesson on inspiration, I'm taking a great deal of inspiration from the melodies found at the end of Under Oath's Some Find Forgiveness, Others Flee song. And I want my lyrics to go something like this. Fill my heart with yours, my love is so secure, this blinding light is pure, so claim me to my core. You will find that you absolutely hate your voice when you're singing, but take note of some of those things that you hate and despise. Your voice cracking? If you push right where you are crossing over your bridge and your voice cracks, you can actually get some very powerful sounds. Is right there at that spot, and I get this desperate sounding scream. If I reel it back a little bit, fill my heart with yours. I'm right there at the bridge for that note, and I can push and get a very powerful gruff moment out of that. It gives it some power. The next thing to realize is if you sound really whiny while trying to sing in a higher register, everybody does, and it sounds great. That is the whole entire stereotype of hair metal. Wow! Was them just like way up there. So yes, this is goofy and ridiculous and embarrassing, but if you're not willing to go there, you're not going to be using your voice to its fullest. So let's be a little ridiculous. Let's record. And I'm going to be spending a lot of time getting multiple different takes so I can edit it together with some of the best ones. This is called vocal comping. And then I'm going to sing up and down a little bit. So I'm going to take my melody. I'm going to see if anything sounds good a little bit higher above it. Start at a different note and try and kind of craft around the general movement of it. Same thing below it. And then I can add in some harmonies to my voice. Fill my heart with yours. Editor Naswalt here. Upon listening to vocals over the track, I didn't like it. This is an impromptu lesson, but one that's important nonetheless. Kill your darlings. I spent a lot of time on these vocals, and the reality is they just don't work. So I've gone back and I've listened to the Under Oath track and recognized something. There is this big sustained note that comes in at the end. Whoa! And it just makes everything come together. And we're going to do something along the lines of, whoa, changing my mind is painful, but maybe I'll find you. And it's going to be sped up to 105 BPM because that's the pace we have this rolling at double time. So let's go ahead and try and record that. Whoa, changing my mind is painful, but maybe I'll find you. You have everything you need for a rock track here in Audiotool, and now you're able to make it. For guitar, you can either get a guitar and go around YouTube watching playthroughs and people teach scales. You'll certainly be learning a lot better than I did when I first picked up guitar, but if you are unable to get a hold of one, I recommend checking out Vyrex's page on Audiotool and stealing some of the different guitar presets that he's put together for his tracks. Some wonderful sounds there. If you want to get better at developing your voice, once again, the Cal Lycus YouTube channel is a wonderful resource, especially for rock-style delivery. For drums, I recommend my drum template. But I also recommend checking out the Drumeo channel if you're not familiar with how a drummer would move around a drum set and you yourself don't have access to one. And then finally, for writing a track, I recommend probably Adam Neely or just some good YouTube channel that's focused on composition, 12 Tone or Cooking with Naswalt, maybe. Not gonna make another video this big. This was quite the undertaking. I'm worn out from it. Thank you so much for watching the whole way through. Audiotool elites are not watching this far into the video. They do have me chained to this chair and I am not allowed to leave.